Hello, Mavs fans. Welcome to Pod Maverick After Dark. It is 9:40 p.m. on Friday, November 8th. You're joined by Kirk Henderson and Josh Bowe. We are both editors at MavsMoneyball.com. Thank you so much for waiting post-game to go live with us. Life happens, and this isn't our real job, so shit happens, and you guys had to wait for us. Josh, how you doing?
I'm doing okay. You're not okay.
I'm fucking angry.
You're not okay. Tell me why you're angry. Tell me why you're angry.
So if we're going to be real, the Mavericks shouldn't have been in a position to lose on a free throw to big dumb fuck Yusuf Nurkic on a free throw for a phantom foul that didn't happen after they committed an offensive foul. The Mavericks shouldn't have been in that position. We can talk about that, but I want to go backwards. First and foremost, fuck you, Tony Brothers. Cancel me, throw me off any sort of NBA, whatever. I don't care. This is bullshit. We all watch the same game. What the fuck is the point of going to Secaucus for some bullshit replay if you're going to watch the replay only for Daniel Gafford to go flying and then commit a phantom foul? Fuck you, NBA. That's my first starting point. The Mavericks lost 114 to 113 because of a phantom foul. A phantom foul that did not happen, followed by a replay where they ignored an offensive foul. I don't have replay if you're going to get it wrong. We all have eyes. Like, go fuck yourself. I have other shit to do. No wonder nobody's watching this bullshit product.
Woo!
I'm tired of this, man.
I know.
3 fouls for Luka, or 3 free throws for Luka, 3 free throws for Kyrie Irving, who was attacking the rim. I'm sorry, Kyrie had 9 free throws. Excuse me. At least Kyrie was actually getting to go to the line, but it's like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, I don't want to fight
Tony
with you.
Tony Brothers sucks, and he has Tony Brothers is the same way. Who was the ref that we figured out in the 2011 finals? Quite literally had a vendetta against the Mavericks.
You mean the in 2011 or 2006?
2011, because Mark Cuban complained and he didn't appear on another Mavericks
playoff game. I can't remember.
I'm gonna Google this.
Joey Crawford? No, he was already. I think he was already out of the. I think he'd already retired by then.
Go ahead.
I can't remember.
Danny Crawford.
Danny
Crawford. They lost like every single game Danny Crawford refereed. It's the same shit with Tony Brothers. You watch that big dumb idiot go to the line and be like, here's what actually happened. He didn't get stabbed. He walked into the knife himself, is what Tony would do on every replay. He sucks.
I will say 2 things because I don't want to harsh your
I know
rage
they
right
lost
now.
for other reasons.
No, not even talking about that. I will say, even if I don't feel as passionately about the calls at the end, I am pissed off that this is the first thing that we have to talk about.
Yes.
I'm tired of these kind of conversations. We do not stay up and get on the internet and talk to people or write so that we can talk about the litigation of NBA officiating. Like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to know who Tony Brothers is. I don't want to know the name of any ref. I know more names of refs than certain names of players at this point.
I can't remember my children's names, but I can tell you Tony Brothers and the same cadre of morons who do the Scott what's his name? There's just like not like all these dumb shit names because they suck.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about this. We're going to talk. This is going to dominate our conversation. It has nothing to do with the actual game. It gets away from talking about plays, moments, analysis, because there's no analysis to reffing. It's just like that sucked, or someone's like, I disagree. That didn't. Like it sucks. It takes the fun out of what we do. It takes the fun out of fans watching. And even as someone who is not as fired up about that call, because watching on the replay, it actually kind of looked like Kyrie might have gotten him.
Yeah. Like, at least called the foul on the right guy. So if that's what we're talking about, Kyrie fouled Yusuf. Yeah, for sure.
But also, you cannot deny that Royce O'Neal put 2 hands in Gafford's back and extended his arms. I personally think Gafford might have embellished that a little bit too much, unless Royce O'Neal is really strong.
Sure.
But he did it. Like he still you can't put two hands on a player's back in rebounding position. That's an automatic. That's a foul. You can't do that. You can't put two hands on anyone. Remember? That's like the rule, right? You can't do that. So even if it's just I just didn't want to talk. I was praying that Nurkic was going to miss both of those.
I wanted to talk about something else because the Mavericks, and we're going to talk about something else. I got this out of my system.
It was an interesting game. And the fourth quarter was awesome. It was Kyrie and
the second
KD
half was awesome.
Dueling. Yeah, second half was awesome. The dueling at the end between KD and Kyrie.
So good, man.
Yeah. That's what it's all about. That's what I want. I was looking forward to talk about that because I felt like that's how this game was going to end with one of these stars. There's so many stars in this game. Booker, Beal.
Oh no, let's kind of wind it back. The first half, in summary, was
awful.
Awful. And let's be clear here. Let's be clear because there was a really good comment. Let me scroll up, see what it was. Where was it? It was from, I just really like this. Austin Vasquez says, why can't we just credit the Suns for being the better team for once? We're acting like Luka. Delightful burn. Austin.
It is good.
Really enjoy.
But also you aren't paid almost $300 million to podcast.
I know,
but that was good.
Being lit on fire like this is fun. You have to lean into it to a certain degree.
One.
The first half by the Mavericks was so bad. Bad.
That offense was dog water.
Like Luka, look, friend of the show, Luka Doncic. I love you. You are my second or third favorite player all the time. I beg you to attack the fucking rim. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay. He got a little bit better in the second half, but the first half was they're trying to wean themselves off of Luka ball. Like his touches are down,
way down.
His usage is down. All of his usage numbers are the lowest it's been since his rookie season, which I think is ultimately a good thing because they cannot. I talked about this before. They're not going to win an NBA championship if Luka has a 38 usage rate. Yep. In the playoffs.
How is his usage still so high while his touches are way down? What the fuck?
That's just because there's so many possessions in a basketball game. I'm assuming that's how I don't know how it works but it is still low relatively. I mean, their usage rate is high across the board compared to what it was back in the day. I feel like so. There's going to be some growing pains. I feel like with that, like there's some understandable, like, hey, they are totally trying a different thing. They're trying to wean themselves off of Luka having to do everything for everyone. They have Clay. They're trying to integrate him. That's another person who, even though he's not a high usage player, he still is someone who needs to be highly involved. But right now it's very there are just so many uninspiring possessions. It would be one thing if they were trying to wean themselves off of Luka dominant basketball, and they're like doing stuff and like missing shot. But they will just go possessions where Luka will pass the ball and just not do anything, and no one else does anything. And they kind of meander and then take a pull-up shot. They take a bad shot. They take a late shot clock shot. That happens so much in the first half. And then the other part of it was the turnovers. The turnovers were terrible. They had 8 first-half turnovers, which is, sometimes I think for the season they average like what? Somewhere between 10 and 12 a game. So they almost matched their total in the first half. They had 5 in the first quarter. And Luka was it wasn't just Luka. I think Kyrie had a couple of turnovers. Luka had 3. I think Luka had 2 in the first half. Luka cleaned it up. In the second
really
half
cleaned it up. Second half was tight.
Yeah, they were very indecisive in the pick and roll in the first half. There was a lot of prodding into the paint and then kind of not knowing what to do.
Oh, they're getting this
and the wild pass outs that are leading into
turnovers. I love that you brought this up because I'm currently arguing with somebody in the chat because I can't help myself. Shout out Jean-Paul. The Mavericks are very good shooters. Luka needs to go back to his floater game. He will not take floaters right now.
He did in the second half.
Okay, but he did in the first half.
No, I know.
And that's all. Not all.
He only had one shot in the restricted area tonight.
Yes.
He was 4 of 9 in the paint outside of it. And I want to say, let me see how many of those. 7 of those 9 attempts, Kirk, were in the second half.
Okay.
Of the paint.
And
this
is So when people are like, Kirk, you're wrong for the Mavericks not Luka not attacking. Here's the thing: I'm not wrong. I'm right. And Luka is amazing and just needs to actually be amazing. Like, that's all I'm really asking for, is for the MVP caliber player to play like an MVP, and he just hasn't done it yet for a whole game against a good team. Now, you're looking at me and you're going, Kirk, you're an asshole. How dare you be mean to the prince who was promised? He'll be fine, but he's not going to win MVP this year, and the Mavericks aren't going to be very good if they keep playing 500 basketball.
Yeah, they need to figure this out. It doesn't help with PJ Washington and Derek Lively out. I know PJ's not great on offense, but Lively, we both agree Lively has been a really good player on both ends of the floor, so that's not helping. And then what helps is Najee comes in and Gafford plays more and they give you good minutes, but then it's like the bench, which we can get into later.
We're going to have
bench.
Like,
the bench
John
is
Paul
so bad.
Is like the bench element. When I prioritize this stuff, just so everybody understands what I'm thinking, I don't disagree with you on any of these points on what the Mavericks need to do better. It's more of when I determine hierarchy of frustration, I lay I lay a lot of this at the people who are higher up the Mavericks totem pole. It's just the way it works. Like, that's for me. Now, if you disagree with me, you probably have a pretty valid case. Like GB pointing out that Royce O'Neal outscoring the entire bench. Yeah, big problem. But now, why is that? 2 of the Mavericks' 5 starters are out. So guys that would be on the bench are starting. Not Najee Marshall. Did he finish with 18?
18 points, and that's normally your.
And he should have played the fourth. He should have closed. Everybody, we'll talk about that shortly. But it's that's 18 points off the bench versus that sort of thing. So,
yeah, and Luka, it's just. He had 2 great games in a row, and I know the Pacers game people are gonna not agree because he shot 37% from the field, but for me it's the passing, and he averaged 6 assists in October in the 5 games they played in October, and then he's come out in November. He had the 15 assist game against Indiana, 13 against the Bulls. Well, lo and behold, those are the 2 games that 2 of the Mavericks' best offensive games of the season, and then he had 7 assists tonight. Kind of fell back a little bit. The assist just aren't there because teams are not doubling him in a way that they used to. They're not blitzing him. They're either playing kind of drop coverage in the pick and roll, or they're switching, which they're daring him to shoot more, which means he needs to be more efficient in the paint because he's not right now. He's shooting 40% in the paint outside the restricted area. That's not good. He's not getting calls, which also, isn't good as well. He's not getting the free throw line as much as he used to. It's early. All of this is early. He was hitting threes pretty well tonight. He was, this was a weird game. He had five 3-pointers. He was 5 of 12 from 3. So what would that make him from 2? He was 13. So he was 6 of 13, I think, from 2. He hasn't been efficient from 2 like he normally is. And I think part of that is, no training camp, preseason injury, no preseason. I think part of it is the way teams are guarding him, and they're kind of daring him to beat him with tough, contested one-on-one shots, which Luka normally makes those. He makes a lot of those. But you
want to say normally? He's not made them.
I'm saying past seasons. Past seasons. Yeah, this season he's not. Last season he was great at those shots, and the season before. He's been normally very good on 2s. He just hasn't been good at 2s. And personally, it feels like he's missing a burst that he normally has. And I know people get really annoyed about this talking point. But and I'm not even trying to say this is not an out of he's grabbing at his groin in this game. He's grabbing at his knee. I just don't know.
I don't know how to deal with that. I don't.
Yeah, I don't know. And he was
talking about
hurt.
it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get cut off by any pro Luka videotapers, but it's just
he feels like he's missing a step, right? He doesn't seem like him all the way with the way he finishes on 2s. I don't know how else to say it. And they could maybe do. I wish they would do some easier things to get him some easier shots. They do a little bit for threes. He took a couple of a good catch and shoot threes and some transition threes.
Couple
That's
that might have
great.
gone down. Like
Yeah,
somebody
that
pointed
was
out
great.
earlier, I didn't like the Luka 3 when they were up 2, but that was off the catch.
Yeah, it was nice. And when to step back, hold on to the
It
ball.
was a pretty shot.
Yeah. Yeah, he did. It just feels like he's missing a step on his twos. I want them to do more dribble handoff, but when Lively's out, I don't know if they trust it, running it that much more. But yeah, he sets the tone, and body language wasn't great in the first half. Not trying to be armchair psychologist, but just wasn't great. But again, second half was much better. I think the whole team's second half was much better. I mean, it was really a tale of two halves. And again, they're missing 2 of their 6 best players. So that just makes everything else harder. So I don't know what to lean in on. We're 9 games in. About 20 is when you could start looking at things and being like, okay, this is a trend. So I want to give Luka to game 20 before we're like, this is a problem. But I'm just observing, like, this is just what's happening. He hasn't been efficient from 2. Like, no one can deny that. What the reason for it is, we can debate. Is it how teams are guarding him? I think so. Is it because he didn't have a training camp because he was injured for the entire preseason? I think that's part of it. Like, it's just it's a lot right now to decipher, and we've only got 9.
Sorry, hold on. I don't like over-indexing the chat, but this is the dumbest shit comment we've ever got. Luka Doncic is a one-trick pony. If it's not spread, pick and roll, Luka Doncic is useless. Thank you, my friend, for being the dumbest person to make the dumbest comment between 1,200 podcasts. Thank you so much for that. I really, it's a high bar to pass. I say dumb shit all the time. Respect. Back to the show.
Okay. Yeah, but you know what? Something I did like in the second half is I think they let Kyrie kind of cook a little bit more.
Man, how
he had a great game.
Good is he outside of he just had a backbreaking series of plays in the final 2 minutes after being amazing.
Yeah, that turnover was tough.
That was a horrendous turnover.
Not a good turnover.
What are you doing, Broseph?
I know. And then what? Like the last 6 plays he made before that, he was like perfect. I thought the one thing I will say is, even with Luka's struggles, I think they're trying to do something that he hasn't done, and it's gonna look kind of gross at times. And obviously it looked gross in the first half. I commend Luka and the team for doing it, because I think this is ultimately going to be better. It's kind of like things are going to get worse before they get better. I think that's what it's going to be here. But I loved in the third quarter and moments of the fourth, Luka was just like, yeah, let Kyrie bring the ball up. Yeah, let Kyrie run pick and roll and get in the offense and get him some shots. They are going to come out of this being a better team. I feel, when they get this figured out, where they can get this usage and touch thing in line, and they can feel comfortable. And Luka looks more like Luka, because he just doesn't look like last season Luka or the year before that Luka. He just doesn't look like himself all the way. You see glimpses, of course, like the incredible fast break, 2-handed bounce pass.
God, how cool is that?
So it's still there.
Cool.
Yeah. So that's why I'm not overtly concerned. Honestly, if he's really hurt, they might need to sit him. Can they sit him a couple of games? But then we're at the point now where it feels like he gets hurt every 3 or 4 games. He's got a new lower body injury, and it's you can't really load manage that. He's got to play. He played 42 minutes tonight, so we'll see how he feels before the next game. I believe they play Golden State next, who got mollywopped tonight, so they're going to be.
Did they really?
Yeah, they were down by 30 to the Cleveland. Yeah, they lost
Cleveland
136 to 117. So Golden State's going to be pissed off for that next game, and they're going to want to play better. So they're going to get Golden State's potentially best shot. So we'll see how Luka feels, but
jeez, 136 to 117. My God.
They kicked the shit out of it. And that score, they were up 108-74 at one point in the second half. So that score is a little misleading. So Golden State's licking their wounds. They're going to want to play much better when they play the Mavs next. But yeah, I don't want to harp on Luka too much, but he needs to shoot better, and we can get into. I think there's 8 more talking points we can get to about this game too.
There were so again, I try to measure myself because I don't like it. Like, I'm not attempting to be mean to Luka for the sake of it. He has been in the second half. He was so much fun. He was also pretty good on defense. He guarded Nurkic. He guarded Devin Booker. He guarded Kevin Durant.
Who?
He gets asked to do a whole lot.
Luka?
Okay. Right?
Yeah, Luka. Yeah, he
Luka
did. He guarded a bunch of different. Yeah, they switched him across everyone. The Suns were trying to get him, like, the Suns did the thing a lot of teams do where they take whoever Luka's guarding instead of screen on the ball to try to force a switch. And I thought Luka held up okay at certain points. So yeah, they do. Yeah, they do ask him to do a lot, which is why I think both of us agree that the way that they're trying to lessen his offensive load will help, because then theoretically he can have more energy to play on the defensive end. He can do some other stuff. But yeah, it's there's growing pains for sure. Like, it just doesn't look right. And I think it's because they're trying new stuff.
There were plays in the first half where Luka flat out gives up on defense. And like, the Suns hit a lot of open threes in the first half. They also had some parades to the rim. And the Mavericks bad offense did not help that. Oh my God. Yes.
Those turnovers led directly, like, the Suns had 13 points off turnovers in the first.
We gotta circle back to this. We need to take a break real quick, but I want to circle back to the really awful lineups Jason Kidd was putting out there. Like, Homie the Clown is up there yelling and cursing like I am, but you know what? He's the coach of the league. I'm a podcaster on a fan-based podcast. He needs to lighten up. Okay, so guys, we're 20 minutes into this. Josh and I typically try to spend 30 minutes on a post-game show. Then I'm gonna do a secondary show because I'm fired up as hell. It's gonna be group therapy. Come hang out with us. Stay around. Come up here and tell me to pound sand the way a couple of you clearly want to. I love arguing about sports. I don't actually take anything personally. I have 2 small children and a wife who is tired of my bullshit. So my ability to get yelled at is high. So please, let's talk a little bit about basketball. If you are joining the show and you've never participated before, it's a lot of fun. Please consider joining this or subscribing to our show. We're up to 3,370 plus followers. We're up. I would like to get to 5,000 by the end of the year, just for fun. Josh and I are very close to getting a sponsor for the podcast. Isn't that fun, guys? And then if you're listening on an audio stream, please go ahead and subscribe and leave us a review. Grateful for all the reviews, even the ones that hate me. Nobody hates Josh. Like, Josh could run for office on a unifying ticket.
People hate me.
Josh is the nation's great healer. And then if you're watching on the video a little bit later, leave us a comment. I cannot tell you, the comments just, they make me happy. Even the ones that are mad. I love them. Okay, so we're going to come back here in just a few minutes. Thank you so much for hanging out. I know you have a lot of options here with Mavs post-game show. Shout out to DLLS for attempting to take our thunder. You guys can enjoy Tim Cato watching with crossed legs. And nobody bitch at him about that. Tim is our friend. He's also our former boss. So Josh and I will be right back. Thank you so much for hanging out. All right, I'm going to insert some ads there for anybody listening on the video stream that is like, why did Kirk stop talking? Okay, so understanding I joined this show mad as hell about the refs. I am not a moron in every way. I understand that how the Mavericks played in the first half were arguably way more important to the Mavericks finishing down a point and really being in the position where they were. How do we talk about what things should we focus on? Because the third quarter run where the Mavericks got back in it after being down, I think it was 63-50 at halftime, was so important only for Jason Kidd to put in Kessler Edwards, my Pepperdine guy, at a key point in the game. And Kessler Edwards might have shown why he's not an NBA player. Like, that was brutal. What do you think? Because in 2 minutes, he was a -4 in a 1-point game.
Yeah, it was very weird because he's a two-way guy. He hasn't really played at all this season except for blowouts, garbage time. So for his first non-garbage time minutes to be high leverage moment in a close game against a Western Conference contender in the second half was very bizarre time to dust him off.
Like, why? It feels so bad. It's so mean to him.
I know. I'm trying to get in the head of it. The only thing I can think of is the bench gave them absolutely nothing in the first half.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing I can think of is maybe he has had some good practice moments and kid was like, fuck it, I'm going to give this guy a shot because no one else is doing anything. Like, maybe in the locker room, he was like, hey, if you guys want to play, I need you guys to start doing something or I'm going to play someone else. And maybe that's what he did. I don't necessarily blame him for that thought process because I get it because the bench was very, 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 very bad in the first half. But it did not work. That -4 in 2 minutes was very much earned. He had a turnover when Luka got him the ball in the corner, which he should have just shot a 3 immediately and instead shuffled his feet. And then he missed a wide open corner 3, and then that was it. And I think when he came in, they were up like 78-71, and then that lead was pretty much gone when he checked out. Not good. Goes to show, and like it's what you said before we took the break. Like, I saw some people like, what happened to this great Mavs depth, that everyone's telling me about? I'm like, they're missing 3 of their best 8 players. No Exum, maybe more, 4. No Maxey, no Exum, no Lively, no PJ Washington. Those guys are healthy. All 4 of them are in the rotation. So you move Najee to the starting lineup. You have to play Daniel Gafford a little more. Now Dwight Powell's in the game, who actually played an inspiring second half, I thought, after getting his ass whipped in the first half. And then you got to roll through these other guys. Like Omax Prosper got a try in the first half. He looked terrible. Grimes played 9 minutes and was okay. Had, better in the second half than he was the first. Mm-hmm. Jaden Hardy got 3 minutes, and it was very short hooks. Like Kid was very much like, what are you going to show me? And he did not waste a lot of time in mixing and matching. I mean, I don't know if that's good because, you like saw somewhere like, like someone is like, why isn't Grimes playing more? And it's like, well, he's got to do more when he's on the floor. And it's like, if a guy checks into a game and plays 6 minutes, like, and then gets yanked without doing anything on the stat sheet, like, I don't know. Like, you got to play. You got to get into a rhythm. Like, you got to give these guys a little bit more rope.
This is a key point, and Jean Paul in the chat is kind of asking continuously. He's asked this like 4 times, and I don't mind it because he's right.
No, we got to.
Why is Spencer Dinwiddie in the game instead of Najee Marshall? The Najee Marshall part is kind of one question, but the Spencer Dinwiddie part is a bigger question because Kid roasted Quentin Grimes. Post game, he says, quote, he's got to make a shot. He's just got to relax, understanding we're missing layups. We're doing stupid stuff right now, and that tends to happen during the season. So we're not going to happen over that, we're not going to panic over that, but he's not a plus. Here's the thing, Jason. He was 1 of 1. He made his 1 shot. He was a -1 in 9 minutes. But you play Spencer Dinwiddie for 28, who derps around and like what? Look, like misinformation exists. Everybody sees things differently. Sometimes it's interpretations. Sometimes it's just a thing. It's like you can't look at what happened during that game and have like I want Grimes to be on the team, and I feel like there's a conspiracy right now to make sure this guy doesn't want to stay.
Is Grimes your Nerlens Noel? Like
no,
Nerlens was for me?
No, because I don't want to care enough about Grimes. But it's like, let's not act like the 9 minutes deserves him being called out for missing shots when, and this is a key point, he didn't miss shots.
I know. And it's tough because theoretically you need him, especially in a game like this where you've got the Suns have Booker and Beal and they've just, even Durant, like they've got these perimeter scorers that are so good. And the Mavericks defense was its most compromised with giving up dribble penetration. The Suns they were 14 of 18 in the restricted area. 18 attempts isn't a lot, but 77% shooting when you get there is really good. And they also shot 9 corner threes, and they made 6 of them. And how do you get open corner threes? Dribble penetration. So that was a problem for the team for most of the night. I actually thought the half-court offense held up pretty well considering the offense gave them nothing in the first half and the turnovers. I thought when the Mavericks offense was better and the defense got set in the half court, the Mavericks defense was better, but they were also struggling with dribble penetration for most of the game. Devin Booker had 12 assists. Tyus Jones had 5 assists, and then both of those guys scored a double figures. Like the Suns kind of got to the rim and got to their spots in the paint a little too freely, too little unimpeded. And you would presume that Grimes is a guy that can be on the floor to help counteract that a little bit. And he only played 9 minutes. I can't tell you right now how good his defense was in those 9 minutes. I cannot say whether he played great enough defense to earn more time, but you got to maybe play it out a little bit more and figure it out. And even if it's not Grimes, like, why didn't we, like, I do not understand Dinwiddie over Marshall. Marshall was having a great game. He had 18 points. He was 7 of 12.
He was really good, man. He looks like a starter in those. I mean, I know he's -7 in 29 minutes, but every Maverick, Kyrie and Clay were the only Mavericks that finished with plus.
Yeah, you wanted some more
in a 1-point game. Think about I guess Prosper was a +1, but Prosper I want to eject directly into space and never see him again.
I know. And then just with the way the Suns close, they close with Booker, Beal, Nurkic, Durant, and O'Neal. Like Dinwiddie, and then you're closing opposite that with Luka, Kyrie, Clay, and Dinwiddie. How many plus defenders are in that foursome? Like, you need another guy in there you need Najee, like you need a player like Najee, and maybe Kid felt like his defense wasn't good enough. Durant had a great shooting game. He was 8 of 14, 3 of 6 from 3. I mean, every Sun had a pretty good shooting game, except for Booker, funny enough. So I don't know if he saw something with Dinwiddie in terms of his defense, but I thought it was very bizarre.
Hold on. That whole sentence is incompatible. I don't know if he saw something with Spencer Dinwiddie in terms of his defense.
I don't know.
Dinwiddie?
I know.
It's 2024.
I know.
Well, and so like I briefly roasted Omax. I just want to point this out. If he took one shot and it was a right-handed layup where someone, probably I think it was either Gafford or Powell, set a Gortat screen where he had a free run at the rim and the man rocketed it off the backboard. Like it's the kind of miss that you see children make. Like
it was one of those plays because you were like so great to see him. You're like, got to the rim.
Oh my God! No!
Yeah. You're so proud of him for getting to the basket, and then that happened. But yeah, I don't understand. Maybe Kid was looking at the plus minus. Najee had.
Well, you got to play somebody. Like that's part of it. Like they played 7 guys over 20 minutes, and then they played 4 guys spurts. Grimes is the one who we are he has a case of the ass for Grimes, like he did Christian Wood, and we're not understanding why, which is entirely possible. There might be something you and I aren't seeing. Like we're not NBA guys.
And we're not in the locker room. We're not at practice.
Right. So there's something entire, but it's like everybody else, you got Kessler, you got Omax, you got Hardy that played, each one of those guys played less than 3 minutes. So like they were not
like, what's the point?
Yeah. They were not the different, like, it's like they're just spelling guys for a moment. It's just like, I'm trying to sit here and I'm looking at the plus minus. The Mavericks lost by 1 and everybody but Kyrie and Clay were negative. I guess you count Prosper.
Kyrie was great.
Kyrie was unbelievable.
Yeah, I know.
And I feel, and again, so we're going to close up here because like we could just kind of keep talking about this.
I don't know. Do you want to talk about can we talk about the last play?
Oh yeah. Let's go ahead.
How I understand.
I'm not mad at it.
You're not mad.
I think 0.8 seconds. You get 0.4 seconds to get a shot off. If there's any kind of contest, it's really difficult.
I know, but from half court, like your out of bounds play is a half court heave from Luka for the most part. Like you can't get a little closer to the basket. I know there's 0.8, so you can't gather, you can't drive.
You can't do anything. Like if there's a pump, you're done.
I know, but like when he caught it, it was like, oh, okay, game's over. Like, yeah, I feel like you got to get something a little closer to the basket.
That part I think is fair. I'm just,
but you're right too. No, you're absolutely right.
Any kind of pump fake, the game's over.
Right, can't drive. I know.
Like, and for those of you,
could he have caught it like 5 feet closer to the rim. Like
Prince Singh asks a good question, like, why can't you pass to Clay? Why can't you do something else? Spaceman says it's always the same play, blah, blah, blah. Here's why, guys. And I'll just explain. I was around for the interpretation of and let's just be clear here, because fuck the Lakers. Garbage Derek Fisher game winner over Tim Duncan after Tim Duncan had hit a game winner where the referees determined, and this was like precedent setting, 0.4 seconds to get a shot off. If you do anything other than shoot the ball immediately with less than a second, the game's over. Because they will look at the replay and they'll determine the balls on your fingers. So it's like Josh's point about, okay, it needs to be closer, I think is something like, why can't you do something else?
Yeah. And I think I saw someone like, why don't you go to Clay? They did. I think Clay was the first option on that play and he was covered. So they ran him off a screen across. Now he was kind of going away from the basket, from the inbounder, which is not great. Like that makes that pass a lot harder to try to throw it over the top of the defense when he's getting screened. He started close to the inbounder, like baseline or under the basket, and kind of came towards and then curled around and out. And once he curled around, like, you know, they're not going to lob that up to him because the ball gets tipped at all. The game's over. So I think Clay was the first option, but he wasn't open. And yeah, so that's where that is. But you know what? It's funny that we're so like this. They missed their, like, PJ and Lively are very important to this team's success, and they went toe to toe with one of the best. You know, Phoenix is playing like one of the best teams in the Western Conference. Like in the aggregate, this is not a terrible result, but they're definitely frustrated. I understand all the frustrating moments inside of it.
I wish
it's not getting easier. You know,
I wish we could talk about Kevin Durant some more, but this is a Mavericks show. I will simply say that I am in awe of how good he is at basketball still.
Yeah, he's great.
Like the crossover is so funny. Watching somebody else try to guard the crossover for a 7-foot tall guy who goes arm to arm. It's not a carry, but the ball must travel 7 feet, like from point to point. And it's just so fun.
I kind of forget how long he's been in the league with watching it. You know, like just like LeBron, you know, I just forget. Like I think he came out. I mean, we were almost in the same graduating class of high school.
LeBron was 03. He was 07.
I graduated high school in 2007.
Mm-hmm. He's 36 years old. Yeah. He's had an Achilles tear. Like that's actually the part that we don't talk about.
Yeah, he hasn't slowed down at all.
Lives.
Yeah.
It's so good. He's so good. God, I hate being mad at him. We got 3 people I want to shout out. Leo Klopper. Thank you so much for the super chat. Doug23 says, welcome back, Angry Kirk. This is for your cool off beer. And appear now, appear later says, right there with you, Kirk. Thanks for being there with us. All right, guys. So Josh is going to go do some editing. I'm going to stay here and host the secondary show. Please continue to hang out with us. Let's try to get, 20, 25 minutes on the second show. We got Brian already waiting in the chat to talk. There's a link, what do you call it? A StreamYard link, which you can join from your phone. You don't got to show your face, though I do like talking to people. You can join via computer. We're going to talk a little Mavs stuff, and then we're going to go to bed. And then the last thing is the Mavericks play, they play Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. They play a lot of basketball again. November is a heavy month, which is, and I'm not talked about this quite enough, but part of why I get so steamed about these games is you just have to rack up wins at some point, and the team is 5-4. They have to be better than this.
We kept talking about get off to the good start.
And they haven't gotten off to a good start as a team. Yeah. Okay. Thanks so much for hanging out. Kirk and Josh here at Pod Maverick After Dark. Everybody be good. We will be back in just a few seconds. Thanks so much for hanging out, Josh, and we will talk soon. Go Mavs. Hello, hello. Welcome to Pod Maverick After Dark, or I'm sorry, Pod Maverick presents Group Therapy Live. This is Kirk Henderson. I am hosting our secondary post-game show. If you're listening on an audio stream, be sure to make that you listen to Josh and I discuss the Dallas Mavericks falling to the Phoenix Suns 114 to 113. Those of you who are in the YouTube live here, you can join the show by clicking on the StreamYard link. We can talk a little basketball. You can get off your takes. You can tell me why I suck. That's probably one of my favorite groups of fans. Now, nobody really outright argues with me. I've been doing this, a live show, for the better part of like 4 years now, and very few people have actually told me that I suck. But I'm still waiting for someone to really come at me. We have a lively group in the chat right now in YouTube Live. So if you're listening on an audio stream later, I can't encourage joining the chat and joining the YouTube more, because here's the thing about sports, guys. We watch sports not only for the collective up and down, but we do it so we can watch together. Like, watching sports with people and enjoying the bullshit together is extremely important. And in today's day and age, we don't get a lot of opportunities to touch grass in the sense where we can hang out with other people who share the same interests as us. This is close. I run this show, but I am not a professional. We are fans. And more importantly, I've started to consider everybody that joins this show fairly regularly friends. Speaking of friends, I got two of them waiting in the chat. Coming up first is my man, Brian. What's going on, Brian?
Dude, I'm mellowed out a bit now, but that loss was such bullshit, man. Like, from beginning to end, another flat start. Luka and Kyrie both came out and played awesome to start, except for the turnovers. But yeah, no, another flat start for reasons we don't need to talk about the center or the end of the game. I want to talk about one particular stretch of the game where the game is absolutely lost. And the issue that is starting to plague this team that is becoming more and more injured and has less and less depth, and has the coach outwardly complaining about the bench stinking at the end of the game. What the fuck was Kessler Edwards doing on the court at any point?
I don't know, man. I don't know if this is like relationship manipulation stuff where have you ever done things to like try to prove a point in in business, friendship, significant other? This is where I think Kid was trying to prove a point about the bench, but I don't know why. We have one regular commenter lately, very enjoys participation. Seeker Man is his handle in the comments, and he's like, the Mavericks need to make a change. I don't know if I agree with that, because it's only been 9 games, but I will tell you, a kid making a plea like this, he's saying the same damn thing.
Well, the change that I would like to see made is maybe you don't play like your third best bench guy, probably your second best bench guy on this night, 9 minutes, and play Omax and Kessler for like a combined 5, where Kessler he was so destructive in the minute and a half that he played. How are you a -4 in less than 2 minutes of game?
I mean, it can be done.
Well, we saw how it was done. It was back-to-back possessions of, they've left you wide open. We need you to give us something. And ridiculous break. And then a nervous catch and turnover because he wasn't expecting Luka to pass the ball at the last second, when that has literally been his MO for his entire career, passing the ball at the last possible second, which is why you need to have your hands up and your feet set and be ready if you're the corner shooter. So you have that. You have Omax giving all the effort in the world and smoking wide open layups, right?
Just the one, but it's like he's such a.
But that one, man.
That one. I mean, in a 1-point game, you're thinking about it.
And the reason why I'm thinking about the Kessler thing so much in particular is because that was right after Luka and Kyrie went on that run to tie the game. We had the technical free throw that Kyrie missed that would have given us the 1-point lead. I think our first lead of the game, it would have been. And that's when you throw Kessler out there in that moment. I could, and I didn't even know he put him out there until he caught the ball to take the first shot. Everybody, I saw the entire timeline go Kessler Edwards at the same time. We all realized he was out there at the same time. And that in that moment, that felt like, okay, this is a huge momentum swing because we've just given them 2 possessions and they've scored on each of them. And it went from a 75-75 game to like an 81-75 game in 40 seconds. And that, in all reality, is probably where the game was lost, even though the ending was ugly and bullshit for like 1,000 different reasons.
No, right. That's and I you know, I talked about this. Like I led with the ref stuff because I feel like I objectively have to because it's the most recent thing we saw. But that's just not the only. Like that's not the main reason they lost.
It's not the only reason, but boy, was it there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, that's not the only reason. That's why I didn't want to come up here and also do ref stuff because I was doing ref stuff all over my timeline.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Gafford blew a rebound that was in his hands. That might
yeah.
sealed
At
the
the end of the game, he put both hands on it, and it just fell out. No, see, I understand where Seeker is coming from. That is the argument for the first game.
Mm-hmm.
The problem, it sure does, and I will be watching Arcane season 2. I will be binging.
I got 2 more episodes to go. I've never seen it until now.
Look, you're in for a wild ride. That's a fun show. But to Seeker's point, or against Seeker's point, what Seeker said about Nurkic not being able to be the best big on the floor, that was the case for the first game, and we allowed that to happen, and that is why we lost. In this game, all Gafford had to do was be as good as Dwight Powell, and we win this game going away. If Gafford was as good as Dwight Powell, we win this game. Dwight Powell thoroughly outplayed him on both ends.
Pretty shocking. Yeah.
Embarrassing. But it's not even that shocking because Dwight was just doing the things he's already good at. We still gave up a bunch of rebounds, offensive rebounds in the possessions he was out there, but we knew we were going to do that. He still gave us the DHO stuff at the top of the arc, which for some reason we won't do with like our 2 best bigs. That's whatever. But he gave us that. He gave us the roll gravity and the finishing and the hustle offensive rebounding and the switching out on guards and defending in space. He locked up Bradley Beal twice, like in ridiculous fashion, and then got a charge to close one of those possessions.
That charge was cool, man.
Because it came right after he locked Bill up right at the top of the arc.
And just to be nostalgic a little bit, that's part of how the Mavericks got to the Western Conference Finals in 2022 or 2021-22 because Powell was their only big. Like Maxey was ass, and Powell was just like a scrambling madman and made it work.
Yeah, Maxey was able to hold up in the paint against Aiden because Aiden is super soft, and both he and Dwight were able to switch out onto Phoenix's wings when we needed to, and it was it was Book, and then it was Mikal Bridges who couldn't do anything with the ball at the time, still can't, but couldn't do anything with the ball at the time. So we were able to make it work that way, and it's like, dude, Daniel Gafford, you're a much better athlete than this Dwight Powell. You should not be getting cooked in open space the way you do. You should not be giving up defensive rebounds the way that you do. You should not be getting moved around in the paint. You should not be getting thrown out of bounds by Royce O'Neal, even if he did come at you from a blind side. Like, he played – this wasn't even one of his worst nights this season, and he was still so noticeably like one of the biggest problems when he was out there, and I stand firmly on this. He is a big part of the reason why we start all these games flat. Like, I've argued with guys – like from just random Twitter bozos like me to people like Steve Jones and Nekias Duncan. Like, dude, I get that Derek Lively plays more minutes. I get that Derek Lively is usually the one that closes, but we start flat and it kills us because we can't play from behind. And Gafford is in there every single time.
Well, and that's what's so weird. Like hearing Jason Kidd talk about this, and it's like he gives you like big Tim Robbins vibes where he's wearing the hot dog suit, and it's like we're still trying to find the guy.
Yeah, we're looking for who did this, and it's like, brother, what do you mean our bench is ass and you played Spencer Dinwiddie?
It's you big mega mind motherfucker. What are we talking about?
And Omax and Kessler got in the game before Quentin. Like, I'm still not off the Quentin Grimes thing. I think that is the main conflict.
I don't know how to talk about that rationally because this looks like
yeah, because I feel like I'm talking about Christian Wood all over again. Except I know this guy is good.
Yeah. Wood was terrible, but Wood was such an offensive force that you're like
that is like, dude, he might be able to give us something as bad as he is on offense, right? Mm-hmm. It's I don't know, man. It's like to come out and then to drop that dude by name is like super sucker shit. Like I do not understand that. Dropping him by name, talking about you need to make shots when he made a shot and Omax and Kessler didn't tonight. Like I don't You're right. It's him holding the step back or the missed three from the other game
Mhm.
against him. But dude, that was 2 games ago. You can't ask these players to come out here and have a next game, next play mentality, and you can't do that as a coach. You can't do that. You can't give Jaden Hardy 3 minutes, you know what I'm saying, after a so-so performance and let Spencer run around out there for whatever the fuck for 28 minutes and just doing whatever, and then
28
put
minutes
Najee on the bench and let him
Dinwiddie.
close.
28 minutes. Spencer Dinwiddie is crazy.
Dude, as someone who thinks that Spencer has been playing pretty good this year, especially on defense, considering what we know him to be, you can't justify this. You can't justify this. And these games matter. I don't care how upset people get at me for it. These games matter. These losses matter. This is the Western Conference, not the East. You have to stack wins and stack them when you can, particularly early, especially if you're trying to build momentum to get to a home court seed, which is what we want. Especially if you, Luka Doncic, want to win an MVP, you better stack some games early so they can start mentioning your names. Because even though they're doing it ugly, even though that team is terrible, even though he's riding the plus minus train because that bench is awful, Jokic is winning games against these bum teams. He's fine. He's doing it in overtime, all types of ugly, nasty ways.
Well, he's
winning these games.
also only gets to play with their starters.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm talking about with the plus minus train, because he only ever plays with at least 2, usually 3 at least of the other starters, and he never carries like a full bench lineup like other stars have to, and so that's why I'm not a big believer in that Jokic plus minus shit. But that's a conversation for another day. It's just Luka, dude, you need to you were awesome on defense today. Your offense let the Suns off the hook in the first half. And those 5 or 6 bad defensive possessions that you had, that let them off the hook. You were great, except for those 5 or 6 possessions, and we needed you to be great all the way through. And he was pretty good, but when Kevin Durant is making shots like that, pretty good doesn't cut it. Yeah. Even as Kyrie was also really good tonight.
Pew, pew, pew. I'm tired.
Yeah. It's a Friday night. I'm about to have a drink and get in the bed pretty soon.
Oh man. All right. I'm gonna bring up Glenn and then my man Sudarshan, who is visiting in town from across the world. He would just watch the Mavs game. Seeker, don't insult me. Come on. I watch more basketball than you. It is my partial job.
Oh boy, what's he doing?
Just telling me I need to watch more schemes when talking about Vujicic, Randall, and Ingram, 3 of the most losery homies that have played basketball in the NBA in the last several years. They're not bad. It's just they're not that guy. And being, just what I have learned watching NBA level basketball over the years is there are guys who are playoff made and that there are guys who are not. I'm not necessarily in disagreement that some of the guys that the Mavericks have may not be. And I think that's why, when we talk about roster changes, I'm not super into it through 9 games, but I think I at least have to be open-minded to it because the Mavericks made a trade deadline move for 7 straight years. That's pretty important, even if it's a minor thing. But it's just I'm not willing to give up on everything with regards to a team that made it to the NBA Finals. That's all. No, Seeker, I've watched these guys play. They're not good. That's all. It's not a homer take. Good, bad players who play on bad teams. Why are they bad? It's because they're not good enough. That's all. It's real simple. Now, certain guys boost themselves when they get to the Mavericks, and I think that's a valuable argument, but I'm not particularly interested in guys that are on massive contracts that boost you towards or over that second apron. And that's just the thing that I think about because of the math. I hope most fans don't give a shit about that because nobody wants to be an accountant and a Mavs fan. The chat does not agree with you. I promise. That's the thing. Okay, friends of the show. Brian's going to go and play that piano in the background and have a drink. Then I'm going to bring up my friend Glenn King. We'll talk soon, guy.
Yes, sir. Peace.
All right. Coming up next, Glenn from the West Coast. What's going on, brother?
Greetings, Kirk. Las Vegas, not exactly the West Coast, but good evening.
The time zone, the easiest time zone to watch sports like a human being.
Yeah, except for 4:30 is a little bit of an awkward time to start a game. I really wasn't finished my work day, wasn't ready to start drinking. Mavericks games are less fun if you're not on some kind of substance, I believe. So you got that. First off, though, and I got a list of stuff to get to today. I'll try to be quick with it. But first off, thank you, because I'm not angry. I'm not angry anymore. I was angry, and then I saw your tweets, and then I said, "Oh, he's covered it for me." Your anger superseded my anger, and so now I'm calm about the ending sequence of the game.
Tell me why.
Because you covered it all already. We got screwed. The referee, all the things that you said are absolutely correct. The fact that they couldn't hit it on a replay, still couldn't see what we all saw, is amazing. But that's Tony Brothers, right? Like, that's what that asshole does to us.
I love it.
All right, getting to my list here. So let's see. This is what Kid does. Okay, so I mean, I agree with you, and I know that you and Brian know a lot more about basketball than I do.
No, this is not knowing. This is just sports.
But it's true, because I didn't grow up playing basketball. But one thing I believe in is I understand kind of the Jason Kidd method. It's going to be frustrating, but he likes to experiment with different rotations at the beginning of the season to see what he's got. And so 5-4 is about what I expected, even though we should be 7-2, because we should have won the 2 Phoenix games. But Grimy, for example, I think he's just experimenting with Grimy. Maybe he hasn't seen what he wants to see in practice yet, but he hasn't seen, like, he did the same thing with Najee the first few games, I think, and then Najee started showing him stuff. And now all of a sudden he's got mostly confidence in Najee.
I like Najee.
I love Najee. We've talked about this. But he played Dinwiddie instead of Najee, and I think the issue there is just confidence. He doesn't have he's got the confidence, I feel like, that Dinwiddie is big shot Bob, right? Remember Robert Horry?
Yeah, of course I do. Like,
of course, right?
Annoyingly influential NBA player.
Right. So you felt you know, if you were the coach, who was, I think, Rudy Tomjanovich at the time, right? You had the confidence, or he was with Houston and then with the Lakers. He had the confidence that when you need a big shot, you can get it to Horry open and he'll make it. I think that's how he feels about Dinwiddie. I feel that way about Dinwiddie.
You got to admit that's a lot of Dinwiddie.
Yes. 28 minutes, 3 points. Sure. I'm with you.
2 assists, 3 points, 1 steal.
Right.
A lot of Dinwiddie.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, I think the reason that he's in there is that Kid believes if you need a 3-point shot, or, you know, when you get that big moment, Dinwiddie will come through, and we don't know yet about Najee, and we certainly don't know that about Grimy. He'll always be Grimy to me, because there was an episode of The Simpsons where remember the one with Frank Grimes, and they called him Grimy, and
yes.
Yeah, it's great episode. All right, you want me to keep going with the list here?
Of course I do.
Okay. Gafford. Now, I'm sorry, Brian. I disagree. I think Gafford, first off, statistically speaking, what did Gafford get? 7 boards, 15 points, was it, on 6 of 7 shooting?
But only 4 defensive boards.
Okay.
That's brutal.
Sure. No, I look, you cannot question his effort, right?
No, I think he plays really hard. I just think he plays really dumb every now and again.
Sure. He's what he's supposed to be. We got him to be the backup for Lively, and he's doing it great, except for that at the moment, we don't have Lively. And if you're expecting more than what he is, then you're going to be disappointed. He's better than Powell, though. Come on, stop that. Stop talking about
Powell. Yeah, I mean, that's where I think this is actually part of my, like, reflexive frustration is I had to watch Powell start and play so many games.
Yes, me too.
Because it's like, it's not even a Powell thing. It's more of a Willie Cauley-Stein, JaVale McGee, Christian Wood, who was that guy that played at UCLA that was like 7'4" that was mega garbage. Like so many of the Mavericks centers that have played have been so bad. And it's like, whoo, brother. Like, not even like bad. It's like when Luka Doncic is serving you up, like people will forget this, but Willie Cauley-Stein shot 60% on dunks.
Yeah. Well, and Powell was hitting 75% mostly dunks. But I mean, I'll never get over. I took my 83-year-old.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
I took my 83-year-old dad to a Mavericks game a couple of years ago. Right before we got, it was the season before we got Gafford and Lively. So it was the Indiana Pacers, and I was trying to explain to my dad that now that we have Kyrie and Luka playing together, this team is going to start going upwards. And then they embarrassed the fuck out of me. Watching, this was against the Indiana Pacers. I don't know if you remember that, but it was a dunk fest. No one was stopping Indiana from scoring at will from 2 feet away from the basket. And so never having to see Powell as a starter again is wonderful to me. And so maybe I get excited when I see Gafford in there to think of the same thing you did, that this is way better than Willie Cauley-Stein, Satnam Singh, who never actually got in very many games, if he got in any games at all. All those guys. It's so much better.
It is. I will just say that, like, the kind of criticisms that we're eliciting upon these guys, where it's like, please grab a defensive rebound, are within bounds. So it's like, if we're mad at the Mavericks centers so Dwight Powell and Daniel Gafford tonight grabbed a total of 9 defensive rebounds between them out of the Mavericks 31. Luka grabbed 7. Like, the team did. I actually don't hate the team rebounding night in and night out, because like guy like Najee Marshall brings it. No, wait. Yeah. And Kyrie kind of is a shockingly consistent rebounder for a guy who's 6'2".
Yeah.
But as the chat is like kind of repeatedly beating down upon this, they shouldn't have to be. Kyrie shouldn't be one of your best rebounders. That's kind of the point that I think everybody is making.
If you had Lively in the game, if you had Lively doing what he's supposed to do, he would have gotten those rebounds, the ones that were just out of the reach of Gafford, or the one that went right through his hands near the end of the game.
Right through his hands. Like, if you're like looking for a reason to be like, all right, send this guy to Mars, that one is the one. That was such a bad, like, that's worse than the Tony Brothers thing, because like they got the ball and they scored, right? I feel like I'm right.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
It's been a while. I need to go back and look at the box score. Anyway, it doesn't ultimately matter. That was one of multiple plays where it's like, Mavericks, what are you doing?
Yeah. All right, next on my list, because I don't want to take up too much of everybody's time here, Luka. So first off, I'll point out that I once again won money on Luka because I waited until the near the end of the first half to make the bet. See, he seems to start slow, so then the over goes down, and then it's attainable. So it was originally 31.5, and then I got in at 29.5, and so there you go, a victory by a half point. My point about Luka, though, that I wanted to mention is that, so you're listening to the announcers talk when Luka starts grabbing his ankle or his leg or whatever is pretty funny, because they fall for it, and we who watch every night know that there will be a dramatic moment where Luka goes into the blue medical tent every night, limping, and then comes out and finishes the game, and we're all supposed to cheer as if he played on one leg.
I know. It's just like, I'm sorry. Sorry. This is a great comment from Juicebox. Fuck the second apron. Look at the Celtics in the Knicks. Sorry, we're talking about like cap stuff in the chat. Cap stuff is such a boring podcast. Go ahead, but we still got to talk about it. Say what you said again.
We are used to Luka's dramatic injuries every single night. The announcers who from the national team are not. They fall for it.
I mean, look. Doris Burke is not my cup of tea. There we go. That's I'll just say, because it's just like, lady, if you watch Luka, you'd know that he's always grabbing something and he's always pissed off. That's like the two things that you deal with Luka, right?
Absolutely. Right. Okay. Just a couple more things on my list here. Have we figured out what the Lively mystery injury is? What happened?
No one will tell me, but a sprained shoulder during warm-ups. There's like 4 things I can possibly think of. Like, did he run into the basket stanchion and throw his elbow into it? Did he try to dunk and miss and like clang it off the back of the rim and do something here? Did he go for the world's most outrageous high five? I can't possibly tell you, but it's awful. It's frustrating. And
Yes.
like, one of my friends who is not a Mavs fan pointed this out last year, and I told him he was wrong, but I think he might be right. Lively strikes me as a guy who's going to be odd injury prone because of how wildly athletic he is. You know?
Yep. I'm starting to worry about that.
No, I'm not worried, but I think you build it into the expectations with him. You know, you got to have a decent backup. So it's like, if the Mavericks would do the thing where if we think Lively is more prepared than Gafford, you have to play Lively significantly more minutes. And they're just not doing that when he's in. So
I think if we played Indiana 10 times this year without Lively, we would lose all 10. It's just one of those things.
The Pacers are a maddening matchup for the Mavericks.
Right. Yep.
Because they basically are like, Luka, are you going to guard somebody for 42 of the 48 minutes? And he's like, I'm not sure if I'm gonna.
Right. So. Right. Last thing on my list. This is just a gut feeling that I have, but I wanted to get your thoughts.
Sure.
I feel like maybe Najee is part of the Mavs mentorship program, and that maybe Kyrie has taken him under his wing, because I'm starting to see little things resembling Kyrie in Najee's game. Am I way off?
I mean, Kyrie, like Najee's playmaking ability is probably the thing that I understood least about his game. I knew he was tough. I knew he could hit or was willing to take open 3-pointers. But I didn't watch. I probably watched 15 Pelicans games last year, and they were just such a peculiar team because they had so many injuries on and off, where it's hard to get a read on guys. But Josh talked about this in one of our shows where Josh is sort of staring at the idea of Najee starting at the 4 over PJ. And I think that's been actually fairly popular take in our YouTube chat. Not Najee at 3, but the Najee at the 4, just for ball handling. And again, I want to credit the people in the chat that have mentioned this, because there's probably like 5 of them in there that are regularly commenting. And the handles, as Raymond notes, like the handles just opens up something. The ability to attack off the dribble confidently is important, because you got Luka, you got Kyrie. Clay is extraordinarily underrated in this regard.
Yes.
He made a nice pass to Gafford on a drive and dish. And then you throw in Gafford, or then you throw in Najee, and it's like, well, I mean, he's pretty good at this. So it's tough to really get to try to think the right way to phrase this. I don't know what I would do if I were a kid, because it's like you want different options off the bench, but I think it's how you distribute the minutes. And because we've only played 9 games, and 3 of those games have now featured Maxey, Lively, and PJ on the bench, it's like, well, I want to be very critical. I mean, I am very critical, but it's hard for me to to say, okay, these are the things that should happen after only like 5 games. So
I like the idea of him in the second line of guys, where you've got Luka takes his first break, and basically you've got Kyrie and then Najee then doing the ball handling, and both of them are guys who will go to the hoop. In the manner that Luka should be doing. Which, by the way, I don't think I saw Luka make 2 shots in a row all night tonight. And I agree with you that the problem is that he's not getting any easy shots anymore. He's not getting the ones. It's so easy for him to bang his way up to the basket and then get a layup. And for some reason, he's just not doing it very often. But getting back to it, I think Najee does it, and Najee makes it once he gets to the rim, unlike Hardy. And I think it's just quite a weapon to have when Luka goes out of the game.
Yeah. I don't know enough. I make pretty bombastic proclamations when I'm pissy, but I've been talking for the better part of 2 hours now, including the end of the game where I was just like watching that live. And I think you were watching with us, where it's just like, come on.
I wasn't, because I can't watch the games.
Oh, the ESPN game. Yeah. No, that's right.
I mean, I can, but you'll be 10 seconds ahead of me or whatever. And so then it bothers the shit out of me that you guys are like, yeah, 3-pointer. And I'm like, oh, shit. I didn't.
Does the League Pass work for you? Guys, we're talking about stream. We're talking about playback, by the way. If you've not joined our live playbacks, we have a good time talking about this. We're joined by David Trink and Matthew, who are both Mavs Moneyball contributors who don't show up on the podcast a lot, but they're very different than Josh and very different than me. We just have a good time talking about the game. So you guys should consider hanging out with us.
I didn't test it again, but when I tried watching the other day, the last game that was a national game,
the national games may not work, but the regular games, like the League Pass games, should.
Yeah. Oh, they do. They do normally. Yeah, I'm right there at the same. I'm a little bit ahead of you guys on the League Pass games.
Okay.
Which is fine. Fine. I just don't want to be behind you guys.
I hear you. Well, thanks for hanging out with us tonight, okay?
I appreciate you. Like I said, because of Angry Kirk, I don't have to be angry. You took care of it for me.
All right, man. Talk
You're
soon.
the best.
All right. All right, we're going to go to my man, Sudarshan. Hey. Party. How was the game? Sudarshan was at the game tonight, and you have flown in for like 9 different reasons why you're in the United States. Tell us what's up, man. How you doing?
Nah, I mean, it was a fun game. All frustrations aside, I thought I'd be a lot angrier, considering the way that it ended. But I mean, yeah, it's hard to be that annoyed after that game.
Tell me why, because I'm real fucking annoyed.
I mean, I think on the watch party channel, the moment I heard Tony Brothers, I'd sort of just pinged it. A little worried about this game, and I think it's nice to. I think Jason Kidd hit the nail on the head, saying that they're starting way too slowly. I mean, they're so casual in the first quarter. It's kind of scary. And I get why you're a little annoyed about Luka is that he's now just trying the highlight pass every time. It's like you're trying to make SportsCenter every play.
I don't think he's trying to do that, but I there's something with the pat. Like there's almost. It's so odd. The social media conversation can facilitate all over the place with Luka. Yeah. And I don't like it when people are like, Luka needs to get dudes more involved. Tonight was a good example of the first half when Luka was trying to get dudes more involved. He didn't do very well.
Yeah, I know. But I mean, there was like one play where he drove to the basket and then and basically tried a behind the back pass. But instead of going across the court, it went behind. And I think Grayson Allen or someone like that just stole the ball and then went up. Like the Suns had 15 points of turnovers, which was 15-7 or something like that. Which in a game with tight margins is quite a big deal in that sense. So yeah, I think everyone's still very casual in to start the game, but they came out in the third quarter and it was brilliant. They just blitzed the Suns and they could do nothing about it. And that was fun, actually, because that's when you could feel the energy in the stadium completely picking up.
The second half was much better in that regard. So let me ask you something. Was that your first NBA game?
Live? Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. That's fantastic.
That was, I mean, yeah, it was fun in that regard. Although the section that I was in was kind of wasn't that enthusiastic. There were just two of us. This guy I was sitting next to. It was only the two of us who were randomly yelling out, like when the the PA guy was asking all fans to yell defense or let's go Mavs or anything like that. It was only the two of us yelling. The rest of them were just sitting calmly and quietly until the end of the game.
So where were your seats again? You said this, but I was like doing two things at once.
No, 9.
Fun, man. Really good time. What other observations do you have from being there live?
I mean, yeah, it got really loud towards the end. That was fun to watch until the final play, which was kind of like it was 22-23 Mavs at their best. Let's put it that way.
Okay. Interesting.
Which is really funny because this team is actually good at ATOs.
Yes.
But considering it was 0.8 on the clock, I'm sure they could have got a better play out there.
I don't think they meant Luka to catch the ball out there. Like, I want to be critical of Kid and I want to be critical of that, but I just have to repeatedly emphasize that you're not getting a 15-footer in the middle of the lane. Like, that's not happening. And
not with less than
the 35-footer element is a absolutely fair criticism of, and I think everybody's made that at this point.
Yeah, I think, I mean, so I was rewatching it because I recorded the play thinking that, you know, if something dramatic happens, then I have the video. Yeah. But I mean, you could see that they denied Clay off of it first, so it finally went to Luka. So it was just a heave basically at that point. And Luka was off on those all night long. Even in the pregame ones, he was so badly off. So there was no chance he was hitting one of those.
That's killing me. It's just killing me with some of this. He's going to be fine. And I think he's, you know, it's much more important to finish the MVP race strong than start it strong. But I'm also like, please do something crazy. Do something to where I can yell at everyone. Like everybody's favorite basketball quasi troll, my friend Matt Moore, spent a significant portion of his day yelling about Patrick Mahomes being the MVP and like yelling about Lamar. And I finally sent him a message where I was like, this is how we sound about Luka Doncic, isn't it?
Yeah. But although while I agree with Kid in how the Mavs are starting games, I do not agree with him just calling out the bench because his rotations have been abysmal.
He's trying too much and getting too cute.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. And this was one of those things that I'd written in the things to dread piece, is that I don't think this is a standard season where you can experiment a little bit and then start off with 500 or sub 500 basketball. I think this is just one where you just have to like play your best team and then work people into the rotation as much as possible. Like give them the games against the Bulls where you work out the rotations. But when you play the Suns, you do not. And I know I've messaged this about twice or thrice on the Slack, is that you cannot play Kessler Edwards over Quentin Grimes. That is idiotic.
Yep.
And yeah, and I thought Grimes was actually good when he played because
I mean, he wasn't terrible at minimum. It's kind of like I thought he was fine.
Yeah, and the one thing he actually gave you was energy and defense, which is something that team really needed. If I was in Kid's position, I would give him Dinwiddie's minutes or a portion of Dinwiddie's minutes. So, I mean, I really don't get the kind of trust and faith that I know that you guys were discussing this a little while ago, is that I don't get the trust in Dinwiddie. He's not the Dinwiddie from 3 seasons ago. He's basically just an average player at this point.
Yep, at best.
Yeah. So, I mean, you traded for Grimes. There's a reason why you traded for him in the Tim Hardaway Jr. deal. It's not a throwaway. I'm sure he was targeted. So, I mean, you might as well at least play the guy, particularly when you're down 3 players in your rotation.
Well, they'll figure it out. They'll be fine. I really, really, really wanted them to get off to a good start.
I don't think that's in the cards for us as Mavs fans.
That's probably right. It's probably right.
And the scary part is we have Denver and Golden State coming up. Which
Now that Golden State game is going to be the game to watch. The Denver game, if Lively's not playing, I don't know what I'm going to, because it's just like you need two good guys to shove at Jokic, and
Jokic,
Dwight Powell is going to no. Ooh.
I mean, Jokic is gonna, if Lively is not there, Jokic is gonna abuse that team unless they go like, I mean, the option to that would be to go super small and play like maybe Najee at the 5, maybe. I don't know.
Well, I'm really glad you joined, and I'm sorry your first NBA game was a loss, but I'm glad you got to visit Dallas.
No, it's fun. I was actually gonna say I'll take the L for the game because I have this rule that I don't wear team gear on when the Mavs play because that's my superstition.
Sure.
Because they mostly always lose, and unfortunately, you can't really show up in the stadium for a Mavs game without wearing Mavs gear. So,
right, it's hard. It's very difficult.
Yeah. So I mean, it was going up against a really hard superstition. So there was no way the Mavs were going to win in any case.
That's right. All right, man. We'll talk soon. Okay.
Yeah. Take care.
All right. Okay, so my man, there was one Tyron was in the chat and then he bounced. I hope he comes back for another show. Like Pseudo-Shan said, the Mavericks play the Nuggets on Sunday. So day off, then they go play in the altitude. I hope they do well. We'll be back after that show. We're going to be back for pretty much every show. I'm thinking, just kind of looking ahead, so the Mavs play Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. I will be missing anything we do next Saturday. Now, I know you guys will probably say, really don't think we're going to be missing you, Kirk. But that's just sort of the way it goes. Tyron, I shout out. I'm just glad you're here, Tyron. I miss hearing from you. Okay, I'm going to go to bed. Actually, I'm going to post all this stuff and then go to bed at like 12:30. Everybody be good. Thanks so much for hanging out. Love all you guys who are hanging out. Appreciate the additional super chats from Henry. We have one from Paul Armstrong. We have one from Glenn. Everyone be good. Really appreciate your support. Go Mavs.